The rivalry between the USA and USSR during the Cold War is well documented. However, communists ruled Russia for almost 30 years before the start of the Cold War. So two questions arise. During that time, how did they both feel about the other? Did the Soviet Union and the United States always hate each other? Throughout the late 19th and early 20th century, the USA and Russian Empire had a very positive relationship. And so when the Russian Revolution overthrew the Tsar, the US wasn't too happy about it. Woodrow Wilson didn't want America's old friend to be picked apart after the war. So he invited representatives from both sides of the ongoing Russian Civil War to attend the Paris Peace Conference. The problem with this was that the whites, those who opposed the communists, had no real authority to demand anything, whereas the Bolsheviks described the treaty as imperialist and illegitimate and that none of it mattered anyway, because the West would soon see their own revolutions. The Russian Civil War continued until 1922. The United States didn't want to get involved directly but was concerned about Japanese ambitions in Siberia. So it sent troops as a deterrent, which of course did not improve relations with Russia. Once the war was over and Lenin was in charge, the two nations basically ignored each other. This was mostly because American investors had lost a lot of money after the new Soviet government nationalized all their assets and refused to repay any of Russia's foreign debts, which meant that any president that recognized the Soviet government was acknowledging that Moscow would keep the money, whereas the Soviets simply despised the US's role as a capitalist power. As the decades rolled on anger at the previous loss of money, it was overtaken by the desire to make new money. By the 1930s, most Western European countries had already given Moscow official recognition. The US decided to negotiate to see if it could do the same in return for the United States agreeing to recognize Stalin's government as legitimate. The USSR would in return allow Americans working there to maintain their freedom of religion and increase trade with the United States. Also, Stalin promised never to interfere in American domestic politics. The deal was seen as a massive win by the US, which gave little and won a lot. And it was also seen as a major victory in Moscow because everything that they promised was a lie. Relations remained poor until the German invasion of the USSR in 1941, at which point the US provided material aid to the Soviets. Whilst the US government wanted Germany crushed, they were also very concerned about Soviet dominance in Europe. After the war, the hope with many was that the war in the East would see Germany defeated, and at such great cost of the USSR that it could no longer be a threat. But as you know, when the dust settled, this wasn't the case, and the already bad relations between the United States and the Soviet Union would only get worse.